Hello and welcome to Adrienne Ross Squared, squaring off from A to Z. So let's get started.
So because of Trump, I just lost my job. Yeah. In fact, my entire department just lost their jobs. I was one of the head research analysts in charge of discovering how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. But according to our government, that answer doesn't matter anymore. I mean, all those years, all that research, it's just gone. And you know the craziest part is now the world may never know the answer to how much wood could a woodchuck chuck. I'm sorry. Thank you for listening.
Well, happy President's Day, everybody. And I thought we would open up with just a little bit of a joke. Although it's never funny when people lose their jobs, but this particular video, which someone sent to me, and it's from Chicks on the Right, it really does speak volumes about what we are seeing going on right now. With a lot of people up in arms, metaphorically, of course, about people losing their jobs. And they're very upset with DOGE, that's the Department of Government Efficiency. And of course, Elon Musk's name is attached to that. So they're upset with Elon Musk. This is President's Day. It's a perfect time to sort of talk about a few things. First of all, in the comments, it's not even been a month since President Donald Trump took office. It's February 17th. He took office January 20th, just short of a month. What grade would you give him so far? It's early. Nobody grades that early. If this was school, of course, you know my background is in teaching. Never got to grade anybody this quickly, this soon in the school year. But he's the president of the United States. This is President's Day. In the comments, what do you give him? A, B, C, D, F, maybe a plus or a minus in the midst there somewhere. Now, I'm asking you to be fair. There are some people who are anti-Trump who might be checking out the channel or might come to the channel, and you will just, doesn't matter what it is, you're just F because it's Trump. And then there are some people on the other end of the spectrum. They just love Trump. Doesn't matter what it is. He's just going to get an A or an A+. But really, thinking about, if you've been, following a little bit even, what grade would you give him? I shouldn't say a little bit even, because I don't know that that's fair. But based on what you know, what would his grade be as president of the United States so far? So, Adrienne, why did you put that video up? Well, there are people who are losing their jobs. Elon Musk is going through, and other people involved in DOGE are going through, and they're looking at where there is waste, fraud, abuse, where there are jobs that people don't really need to have. And of course, this little video clip was, I want to say exaggeration, but I don't know. But he's like, it starts off all seriously. I just lost my job. Now we're not going to know how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, right? And I'm not laughing at anybody who's lost his or her job. It's just a comical way of saying that there are people out there who are living off of the taxpayer's dime, and their jobs are not on the up and up. They're not necessary, or there's corruption going on. And it needs to be exposed. I just did a Substack article. If you're not following me over at Substack, please do. And those of you who are following me at Substack, thank you so much. Go check out AdrienneRoss.substack.com. The link is in the video descriptions all the time. So go to Substack. There are different subscription options, free, paid. All of your support is appreciated. But I did an article just a few days ago, and I said, if it were not Trump who has been, how did I say, if it were not Trump who was doing it, they would love it. And that is so true. And that's why I said, what grade would you give? Some people, doesn't matter. It's Trump. And there are things that are being done in this administration. Trump said that he was here to do some stuff. And he's doing some stuff. And if he were not the one doing it, some people would be open-minded enough to at least take a look. But no. Oh no, it's Trump. And so we have a situation where just that little video clip there points out that there is waste in the government. This is our money. But because it's Trump, in part because it's Trump, people are just outraged. Oh, America is dying and he's a dictator and things are just going to the wolves. Have you ever hired someone and come to find out they're doing nothing, or they're robbing you of your money because they're a bunch of corrupt individual? Or if you hired a team, who throws their money to people who are not doing anything that they're supposed to be doing, or they're passing your money along to something else that you did not sign up for? That's absolute nonsense. You're going to continue to pay these people? No, but somehow when it comes to the government, we have this mindset. Let's even set Trump aside for a second, because some of you don't matter what happens, it's Trump. But for others of you also, I have to challenge you. We have bought into the idea, you know what Ronald Reagan said, those words, I am the government and I'm here to help. Well, thank God when the government does help. But some of us have such a mindset about the government that, oh, they can't do any wrong. So if the government is using, I don't care, it's whatever the government wants to do with my money. We're so used to the government taking our tax dollars that we no longer go, well, what are they doing with it? Like, it's just not our money anymore. I don't care. Really? I mean, DOGE is uncovering all kinds of nonsense. And people are like mad at Trump because he's got this agency that's designed to check out what exactly is going on. And people are upset. Why are you upset with Trump? Why are you not more upset, as I've heard others ask, why are you not more upset with the fraud, with the waste, with the abuse? Why are you not upset with that? And instead you're upset with the people who are finding it. It doesn't make sense. It's like you get a bill, a wrong bill, right? A bill that shouldn't be your bill. And you get mad at the mailman who brought the bill because he brought the bill, instead of being upset with the people who are charging you when they're not supposed to be charging you. You get the picture. Let's just take a look at some of the things that money is being spent on. I'm just gonna share some things that I have read. Here's one thing that jumps right out at me. Okay. You're talking about USAID, USAID, which is under a big microscope. Okay. So Senator Johnny Ernst of Iowa, I always say Johnny, I think it's Joni. I don't know. I always get confused. But she talked about funneling tax dollars to risky research in Wuhan. That's wasteful, all the way to sending Ukrainians to Paris Fashion Week. USAID, I'm going to call it. I hear some people say USAID. I hear some people just say all the letters. USAID is one of the worst offenders of waste in Washington, she said, all around the world. Okay. And she highlights that the agency authorized, and I'm quoting, authorized a whopping $20 million to create a Sesame Street in Iraq. Yeah, did you hear? A whopping $20 million to create a Sesame Street in Iraq. This is your taxpayer dollars, and people are upset that this stuff is being uncovered. And we're like, no more. Happy President's Day. No more. I've even read stuff about, is it Guatemala, that we are financing people having the surgery to change your sex. I think that's in Guatemala. So we got Sesame Street. Listen, we waste enough money here in America every year. Is it Rand Paul who puts out that list of all the money, like shrimp on a treadmill and all this other nonsense? It's wild. So what else? Okay, so here's this one. $1.5 million, a program designed to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. Taxpayer dollars. The Pentagon is, let's see, it says that their $850 billion budget could be the next thing to go, because it has been found that in 2015, that the Department of Defense could save $125 billion over 5 years by renegotiating contracts and consolidating bureaucratic processes. This is, I'm over at foxnews.com and checking out the information they have. And did you hear about the illegal aliens who are being put up in luxury hotels? Luxury hotels. And we're talking about FEMA, which the president has talked about giving the kibosh to. So FEMA gave over $59 million to house illegal immigrants in luxury New York City hotels. Just recently. And Musk wrote on X that, quote, sending this money violated the law and is in gross insubordination to the president's executive order, which put FEMA under review to improve the agency's efficacy, priorities, and competency. We have people in our country who are legal. They're American citizens. They don't even have a place to live. We're in a tonight. I mean, I had to go to the stores today. They're wild because we're expecting a huge snowstorm. Huge. They're talking about 10 inches, 12 inches, etc. And so I had to get out there in the stores, and it's wild out there. And I was driving and I was thinking about the cold. I was thinking about the storm coming. And as I was driving, I began to pray for people who don't have homes to go to. And yet we're housing illegal aliens. It's not that I don't want people to have warmth and shelter. I'm just saying that it is the American government's responsibility. When I say, actually, we are the government, but the leaders, the ones we elect, they're supposed to, it's not a cuss term to say America first. We want to love, we want to give, and we should be doing that. But the government should not be taking taxpayer dollars, violating the law. And it's got to be, we got to know what's going on. And a lot of people are so used to things being messy that they don't like it. That makes Trump a tyrant, etc. We have to reevaluate our priorities and what our elected leaders are supposed to be doing. We're even funding foreign media. President Trump put a 90-day hold on U.S. aid's foreign aid. What is it, last week or the week before? And then cut $268 million from media outlets in more than 30 countries. I wonder how many of those media outlets were dogging the United States and dogging our president. Interesting. Other stuff like what is it? 2.5 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. 2 million for sex changes, like I said, and I can put a number on it because I just found this. 2 million for sex changes and quote LGBT activism, end quote, in Guatemala. 6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. I could go on. I'm going to stop right there. The point is, don't be upset because it's being uncovered. You should be upset, if anything, that this stuff was going on at all. And what else is going on? I just shared a few things. What else is going on? And why are you, if you are ticked off that this is being stopped, then have you been indoctrinated to think that there's something wrong with knowing where funding is going and not wasting your money? So again, how would you rate President Trump so far? Another thing that has people really annoyed is that he's talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. And some people want to know, well, Adrienne, what do you think? Because your background is in teaching. And I said, I did an article on this too, I don't know, 2 weeks ago maybe. And I said that this is a worthwhile thing to talk about. It's not the first time it's been talked about. The Department of Education. And people are like, oh my goodness, he's talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. Whatever shall we do? Well, the Department of Education has not always been there. And many of us, there wasn't even a Department of Education, for our whole lifetime. 1979. Why should we consider getting rid of the Department of Education? Well, I can tell you what I think, but first I'm going to show you this little clip because I think it's really succinct, and I think it's going to open your eyes to some things. Unless you're indoctrinated and you're not interested in facts, you just have partisan ideas that keep you from really caring about what's best, even for your own children. So take a look at this.
Okay, so it was announced that the Department of Education is on the chopping block to be shut down by the Trump administration. And some people are confused and upset as to what that means. So let's talk about it. When the Department of Education first started in 1979, it had three main goals: administer federal funding for education, collect and analyze data on schools and students, and enforce federal education laws that relate to civil rights and equal access. Notice that nothing I listed mentioned giving them power to set educational standards. That's something that's left up to the states, right? Not quite. The Department of Education requires that all schools and states that accept federal funding have to follow certain guidelines and standards, which essentially gives them control over what's being taught in schools and basically puts all states and schools on a one-size-fits-all education model. This means that students in places like Malibu, California, and rural Alabama are forced to follow the same curriculum and teaching methods, despite obvious economic and cultural differences that impact how students learn. Now, this wouldn't be so bad if the reading and math scores in the US were on the rise, but it's the complete opposite. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, US reading and math scores have dropped to the lowest level in decades. And the sad part, this isn't even a new trend. Based on the most recent assessment, reading scores have reached a historic low, with 33% of eighth graders reading below the lowest level. For fourth graders, the number is even higher, with 40% of fourth graders reading below the lowest level. That's the highest percentage in roughly 20 years. And what makes this worse is that the US spends more money on education than almost every other country in the world by far. So this model clearly does not work, and it's not something that you can just throw money at to fix. The other big issue is college loan and grant funding. College has become completely unaffordable, and the current student loan debt in America is about 1.7 trillion. What most people fail to mention is that the reason that college is so expensive is because of the Department of Education. Why wouldn't the school continue to raise its prices if they know that the Department of Education is going to give students loans for any amount of money, and they're not tied to the performance of the student nor the performance of the school? It's free money. Removing the Department of Education will force colleges to lower tuition overnight because no students will be able to afford it otherwise, and those schools will go out of business. There are several colleges right now that don't accept federal funding, and their tuitions are way lower. Plus, their students experience way fewer issues when it comes to student debt when they graduate. There are also already states that have stepped up and started to offer student loans that are more affordable than what the federal government offers. So yes, we have real world examples of what this could look like without the Department of Education. and they seem to be effective.
There's some people, as soon as you hear, oh, the Department of Education is going to be gone, you just blow a gasket because it's the Department of Education. It's the government, and the government is here to help. Did you hear his points? Former teacher here, nearly 20 years. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all education. Why are people in Washington, D.C. creating curriculum for every person in the entire country? There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all education. Across the nation, listen, even in the classroom, you can't even roll with one size fits all. So as he said, you got somebody in this part of the country and somebody in this part of the country, and you're squeezing them all in the same box. Not good. My personal belief is that local works better. Okay. So if you're moving toward the state, then great. Okay. You move toward the state. That's better. Even better is to move locally. Local is best. It's best. And you have educators you hired because you believe that they know what their students need and that they are capable of administering the kind of educational practices and lessons and all the things that we need to make students who are intelligent and productive. But the Department of Education is not necessary for great education. I mean, think about it. And go to my Substack article on this, AdrienneRoss.substack.com, because I talked about how when you look at homeschooling, when you look at private schools, when you look at these things, they're not, they homeschoolers, they're not doing this one size fits all thing. And yet they're more successful. Their students are more successful. Private schools, their students are more successful. So you can't say, well, if we don't have the Department of Education, we won't be successful. And mind you, the huge point about the cost of college. Now, there are people, college the prices are off the wall. Well, like he said, that figures into the Department of Education. But some of you will still go, no, we have to have the Department of Education. We don't know what we'll do without it. And you just start bugging out because you think that's all you've ever known, or you're younger and that is all you've ever known. Big government is not necessarily better government. In fact, it's often the opposite. And so some of you are just so nervous about that idea because you don't think that we can function without big government. And others, as I wrote in the other article I referenced, would absolutely love the idea once you hear the facts about it, like you just heard a little bit. Some of you would love it. But because Trump is the one talking about it, you'd rather have your children in schools where they're not even producing well. He talked about the test scores. Oh my goodness. And this is with the Department of Education, and more money doesn't mean that you have more successful, smarter kids who are being taught right, or kids who are retaining more, or anything like that. So like he said, throwing money at it is not what's going to fix it. And some of you would sacrifice your kids. Why? Because you can't stand Trump, and you teach your kids that they're not supposed to like Trump either. And this whole thing, we have got to wake up from this mindset and say, what's good is good. That's like when I say to people, look at Trump's first 4 years. He was a good president, no matter what you think about his personality. And yet there are some people who just rail against it because they cannot get past the personality, whatever their issue is, their candidate lost, whatever. Look, just we've got to do better. You got to do better. You can't sell yourself down the road and let people take advantage of your taxpayer dollars and education be horrible and all that cause Trump, orange man bad syndrome or whatever. And you certainly shouldn't want people to take advantage of your taxpayer dollars. We have got to get on the right track. And if it's Trump who's getting us on the right track, what's your problem with it? I'm just saying. So anyway, I just wanted to give a couple points. I wanted to talk, like I said, about DOGE and about the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and all this stuff being uncovered. I wanted to talk about the Department of Education. We could go on. You probably know a lot more than I do about the other things that are going on with President Trump, and whether it's situations with Ukraine and the hostages or whatever it is. Like I said, you give him a grade, and feel free to explain yourself in the comments as well. Only thing I ask is that we are respectful in our comments and that we don't just throw stuff out there, particularly if we don't know what we're talking about, and just being, just being hateful. If that's, I don't know, I guess that's the right term. You know your heart, I guess. I don't know if you know your heart or not, but be respectful in your comments and have dialogue with one another. That's cool. And yeah, but put a grade in there. All right. So I'll leave it at that. Once again, happy President's Day to you. God bless you. God bless America. And I'll catch you next time, God willing.